when your mother was little. Maybe that would interest you.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about your house, your property, or your neighbours, your pets, anything.
Well, we had a nice home in Morden, 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 Surrey, in England, and this house that we had was on Rhodes Moorhouse Court, Morden. It was what they called an RAF hiring.
Okay.
That street of houses was just for RAF families, or widows and children of RAF serving men.
The whole village was just...
No,
Sorry?
just that street.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
That particular street was for RAF families. It was part of a big estate that was built for the service men's families. All three services, Army, Navy and Air Force. But this was a lovely street of 3-bedroomed houses mostly. And yes, it was semi-detached. And in front of us was a big playing field, and behind us was the railway. So it was quite nicely situated, really. The local railway station that ran on the southern region was very close, just a 2 minutes walk from the house to the station. So that was handy. And that's where my children were brought up mainly, because I went there when they were all quite young. I can't remember the date, but I think Christopher would only have been, and he's the youngest one, he would have been about 2, no more than 2 I think, when we went there. So there's only a year and a bit between Christopher and Susan, and then there's a few years between Susan and Janet. As Janet was born in 54, Susan was born in 58, and at the very last day of 58, and Christopher was born in April 60. So the second two were very close together. But what was I saying? We lived on the Rhodes Moorhouse Court street for their growing up years, and it was a nice situation to be in, because we were close to all the transport, underground, southern region, and buses in and out of London and the south coast. So that was good. And the schools were good around us. And I made some nice friends there. And there were other children around us as well. And what else can I tell you about that? I went to work. I worked as a temp to start with, but it didn't last long because I soon got a permanent job as a secretary. But I didn't want to stay like that. I still wanted to be a teacher. So I went to teacher training college in Wimbledon and did a 3-year teacher training course and went into teaching business studies, because I'd had all the experience of working in business, and so I was encouraged to do that, and I never regretted it, because I eventually, got a job teaching in not in Wimbledon, can't remember the oh, how awful, I can't remember the name of the place, but anyway, it wasn't too far away from Morden. And soon after I'd got my teaching experience, I decided I'd come to New Zealand, by which time Janet was working, of course, and Susan and Christopher were in the senior school. At least Susan was in the senior school. So it wasn't a good time for Susan to be changing, because, you know, she wouldn't have had any friends to come to out here. So she was the one that was most upset about coming out here. So what year did we come here? 1974? I do get confused with 70. I think it was 74, at the beginning of 1974, when we came here.
Well, Mum was what, 16 then? She did 1 or 2 years of high school,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Christopher would have been 14, or nearly 14.
Yeah.
He wasn't 14, he was nearly 14. So your mother would have been 15?
Yeah, it sounds about right from what she's told me, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we came here, and Susan and Christopher both went to Caramel High School, because I got a job at the girls' high school, and of course Susan didn't want to go to school where I was a teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a better school when I didn't really know, because I'd only just got here. But anyway, I went to teach at Girls' High.
In Hastings?
In Hastings. I stayed there for 12 years.
So was that 74 to...
86. Yeah.
And
then I went almost a year at the private school, Havelock North. Where did Melody go?
Iona.
Iona, that's the one.
So you taught
That's
there?
where I went to teach, yes.
Okay.
But it was a lovely school, however. They didn't have the best of headmistresses there then when I was there. She was all right, but she was always asking me especially to do jobs for her on top of, it wasn't anything to do with my teaching post. But she was always asking me to do other things. And there was no one else in the department but me. I was it.
So you're doing business there?
Yes.
So you always taught business?
Teaching economics, yeah. I started off teaching shorthand typing, secretarial practice, accounting, all the business studies. I did the lot. That's when I first started.
Yeah.
But then I went to... I taught at Girls' High for 12 years. I became head of department after about 4 years there, because the head left. And so I didn't teach all the subjects, and I concentrated on the accounting and economics.
So what school were you
There's
at
a
there?
shortage of those teachers, you see. And I was still at Girls' High in Hastings. And after 12 years I came to Iona College for almost a year, not quite. And then I went to Havelock North High School.
From 88
from
then or so?
Iona. 74, 84, 86. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
From the end of 87. I started there before the end of the year, Havelock High.
You ended up being head of department of economics there as well, didn't you?
I
Yeah,
went
Rock.
there as head of department. Yeah.
Oh, you started as head? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And it started off being a very little department, as the one in Hastings was. But when I left the one in Hastings, it was huge. It had grown. So that was good. And the same thing happened up here. It grew. Bigger.
Yeah. So you implemented the that business program. What
Yeah.
was that called? Enterprise.
Yeah, the Young Enterprise Student Company. Yeah.
What happened there? How did that all start?
That came about, well, when I was at the girls' high school in Hastings, I started it there. The boys' high school were already doing it, I think, in Hastings. So to start with, we worked with them.